Hey Renette, it's Aaron, your personal driver, and today we're going to have to talk about Seattle, the TNC union, and all the news that's going on. If I'm being honest, I'm not really looking forward to making this video. I've been avoiding making this video, but there's been so much written about it and so much drama surrounding it that I'm going to have to set things straight. For later. Now, the other player in this is obviously Uber, and Uber is being basically dishonest from day one on this whole process, which shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, when you have a company with rampant sexual harassment who lost $3 billion last year, I mean, obviously there's some shady shit going on at the company level, and that continues to be true in Seattle. Basically, Uber has gone into a full 100% attack mode about this ordinance, and they're essentially lying about it, and it's pretty transparent. So here's the thing, let me back up before I continue. If you just get your news from the Teamsters, okay, you're going to be misinformed. If you just get your news from the city council, you're going to be misinformed. If you just get your news from Uber, you're going to be misinformed. The best way to do it is get all the news from all the sources, and then try to find the similarities and differences in the information you're getting, and then do your best to come to a reasonable conclusion about what the actual truth is. So the first thing Uber is trying to do is they're trying to make it seem like as soon as this ordinance is passed and implemented that you're automatically in a union, and that's not how it works. That's just completely false. What all it's doing is allowing for a vote. That's the only thing this ordinance does. It's saying if the TNC drivers want to unionize, they have a right to. But Uber doesn't even want the vote to happen. And that shouldn't be surprising because Uber hates its drivers. It won't even let a tip option happen on their app. That's how little they care about drivers. They want to get to driverless cars as fast as they can because to them, drivers are a hindrance to what Uber's plan is. Now the other thing they're talking about is they keep saying, oh, the city doesn't want to listen to drivers, it's drowning out your voices, yada yada yada. And that's not true either. That's just on its face a lie. So I went to one of the Seattle meetings that Uber's having on this because I was kind of interested in what Uber had to say. So I went in person and listened to their presentation. Uber's position is every single person who's downloaded the driver app is a driver and should be able to vote in the union. Because remember, you have to get 50%. So if there's 100 drivers, you need 50 drivers to vote for the union. So the more drivers you have, the harder it is to hit that 50% benchmark. So they're being pretty dishonest about it, because if you download the driver app and you take one ride and then that's it, you're like, I don't like Uber, and then you delete the app and you never take another rider, that doesn't mean that you're a driver. That means you tried it. And Uber's biggest problem, not just in Seattle but across the country, is driver retention. The most common thing to happen is a person will download the Uber app, they'll get a referral bonus, and they'll drive the 40 rides required to get the referral bonuses, and they never take another ride again. That's the vast majority of drivers. They can't retain drivers, and honestly, you kind of are a little bit crazy if you still are a driver for Uber because they're so abusive to the drivers. So I guess I have some kind of abuse complex because I still do it, but it doesn't make any sense. So what Uber's trying to say is everyone who's had the app and ever given a ride in Seattle is a driver, and they should count. And the reason for that is if you've driven, gotten your bonus, and then deleted the app and you no longer are active on the subscription, you're obviously not going to vote for a union because you don't care. You're not even a person. You've probably moved or gone to a different company or don't like the app so you don't want to do it anymore. Now the standards for full-time drivers is super low. I think the city did a really good job in this particular part of this legislation. So essentially, if you look at the past 90 days, you have to have driven, I think, around 15 rides a month. I'll get the actual stuff. I think it's 36 rides in 3 months. Anyway, so in the past 90 days, if you've given 15 rides a month in Seattle, you qualify as a full-time driver. And that is such a low bar that I think everyone should be happy with that. Because at least they're active drivers, so in the last 90 months they had to have given these rides, so they haven't downloaded the app and gone anywhere. And 15 rides a month I mean, that's a pretty low bar. Most anybody can reach that, even if you're not doing this full time. So the next thing I want to talk about is the fake union, the advisory group, and these are just like, they're like really pathetic people. Like, I met them and they're just angry and they don't know what they're talking about, and they want their 5 seconds of fame. They're super excited that Uber's brought them up into this position, and like, they think they have some kind of authority in the matter, or they're experts or whatever, and they're just kind of jerks. They don't really care about drivers at all. And like I said before, you can tell if they cared about drivers' concerns, then they would be demanding Uber had a tip option, and they just simply aren't. They would demand that you can opt out of Uber Pool, and they're not. They demand that per wages went up, and they're not. Let me put it to you this way. You know what the advisory group did? They made Uber Pool mandatory. Yeah, that's right. So if you're a driver in Seattle, you are forcibly given Uber Pool rides, and there's nothing you can do about it except for cancel. But remember, if you have a high cancellation rate, Uber fires you. So you are forced to do Uber Pool, which means you're forced to lose money because you can't make money doing Uber Pool. And that's what the advisory group gave us. So yeah, they're really for the driver. Yeah, that's what they are. They're getting jerked off by Uber and they love it. That's what they do. So the last group here is the actual drivers, and this is why I think all this drama going about this ordinance is silly. Is I honestly don't think drivers want a union. Now there's a big giant split about what kind of drivers there are. Okay, so first off, the vast majority, like probably 75% plus, Uber will not release the numbers. The city even asks for the numbers, but Uber just flat won't comply with the city and won't release it. But the vast majority of drivers on the Uber platform are part-time. That's why they changed their whole marketing scheme to the side hustle. You know, like, get your side hustle on. Because they know that the vast majority of the drivers who stay with the company are doing it part-time because you can't do this full-time and make a living. I mean, that's just, the wages are too low. You can't pay your bills if you're doing Uber full-time. You certainly can't support a family. But there are a small portion of full-time drivers, and most of them are either ex-taxi cab drivers, taxi cab rejects, meaning that they couldn't drive for the taxi cab company because the standards are so much higher than Uber, so they don't have a choice except to use Uber because Uber's requirements to drive are so much lower. For example, taxi cab drivers need to get past a fingerprint background check. Well, Uber doesn't require that. Why? Because most of its drivers wouldn't be able to qualify because they have something in their background that they're trying to hide. Why else would they comply with that? You can save money, but that's not true. It's not that prohibitively expensive. It just prohibits most full-time drivers from getting on the Uber platform. Anyway, the full-time drivers are basically airport drivers. That's what they do. They are intellectually bankrupt. They don't know how to run a business. And honestly, they are more like employees of Uber than they are independent contractors. And it's not a large portion, but it's a big enough portion to make actual difference. They all drive Priuses because the Prius is the preferred car of a taxi cab driver. So if you've been a taxi cab driver, you know that you just get a Prius, quit the cab company, and you get on Uber. And you go and you sit in the airport queue, and then you do airport queues 24/7. And that's what the full-time drivers are doing. Now there's a very small percentage of full-time drivers who actually know what they're doing, meaning they're doing a day-to-day hustle in the city of Seattle, and but most of them actually are Lyft drivers. Most full-time hustlers are not on the Uber platform because you can't make any money with Uber. They're doing Lyft because Lyft has a powered drive bonus. So 20% of $1,000 is about $200 extra dollars. So that's why they're doing Lyft, is because they're making more money with Lyft than Uber, plus Lyft lets you tip. So a minimum, if you hit your 20%, you're getting $200 extra, plus all the tips, and you usually make between $150 and $200 in tips on Lyft. So it's $400 extra a week to do full-time Lyft as opposed to full-time Uber. So most full-time drivers are not driving for Uber who know what they're doing. And the vast majority, I'm telling you, it's gotta be between like 70 and 80% of drivers are like me. They do some other stuff, and then part-time when they have extra time, they do Uber, either in the evenings when they're off from their job, on the weekends, or if they're like a contractor, like a electrician, or they're a carpenter or something like that. They work Uber only when their contracts are in. Meaning, if you don't have electricity to work on right now, right? Like no one calls and needs their electric stuff fixed. There's no new buildings that need wiring. Then you just do Uber on the side until you get your next contract. And that's the vast majority of Uber drivers. So you have this weird community that really, it's not homogenous. They all don't have the same motivations. They all don't have the same desire. Because the reality is you're not independent contractor with Uber. You're an employee. You're an employee who has a mobile office. Uber knows that, and that's why they've settled lawsuit over lot. And that's why they settled lawsuit over lawsuit to keep their independent contractor status. Because Uber consistently violates the law when it comes to independent contractors. Because they want to retain control of their drivers. They just don't want to pay any kind of benefits. And they have billions of dollars in cash because of investor money. So they would rather pay drivers out of pocket to violating their independent contractor rights than give them either true independent contractor status or employee benefits. So you're not an independent contractor, but people really want that 1099 because this isn't their full-time job and they don't want to shift. Okay? So let me talk about some of the problems now. We're talking about shifts. So there's a lot of fear, like I said, that one, the Teamsters are going to represent the taxi cab unions and not the drivers. Okay. The second is you're going to be an employee basically in this union, and you're going to have to pick a shift, and they're going to shove stuff down your throat. So let me be clear when I say this. Those might be legitimate concerns, and I am worried about those too. So I'm not trying to say that those fears are not legitimate. They are. They're big concerns. But you got to understand what a union is, okay? A union is just a collection of similar people who are bargaining with a company on a mass scale, okay? You as an individual have no say in how Uber does business on a day-to-day. Go to Uber. I dare you to go to Uber and ask for a raise. Do it. I see what they say. Tell Uber you want 2 vacation days a month, and so you can still get compensated if your kids are sick. Try it. See what happens. I can't even get off Uber Pool. I've gone to I've emailed Uber when they had email. Well, they don't have it anymore. I've used the in-person app, and I've gone to 3 different hubs, green hub stations, and they refuse to take me off the Uber Pool platform. They just straight won't do it. They force me to stay on Uber Pool. So they're not listening to me, and they won't listen to you either. What a union does is it gets the concerns of the majority of its members, and then it goes to the company and says, these are our demands. You have to meet them, otherwise we'll strike. And the fear of strike forces the company to negotiate with the union. Because the company, if you go to Uber and you say, I'm going to strike, they tell you to fuck off and then delete you from the platform, and then you don't get to drive anymore. But if the union does it collectively for everybody with the threat of strike, and Uber tells the union to go fuck off, then Uber crashes and burns because none of its drivers will be able to drive. Okay. Plus, this is a technology company, so it will be easy over time for the union to just have an off button and then push the off button, and then nobody can use the thing. Especially if there's a city ordinance behind that. Meaning that if Uber lets you drive on the platform during the strike, the city could come back on Uber legally. That's not how it works, but that going forward could happen very easily. So the inner workings of a union are that once the union is formed, they have to have basically leadership. There has to be brick and mortar offices someplace and human beings filling office seats. And at first it's going to be just random people because it's new. But unions are democratic, meaning you pick who represents you. So if the union isn't doing what the majority of drivers want, the drivers can change the leadership in there. You can change who's doing it. So the leadership, once it gets enough concern about an issue, will change it. So trust me, Once the union is formed, if it's formed, and it's far from being formed, but if it's formed, the first thing they're going to do is get rid of the shifts. Because the vast majority, I mean 75% of the union is not going to want shifts. So if they push forward through the collective bargaining that they want shifts, the union will riot. Okay, so that the leadership will change that almost immediately. And I'm not even worried about that. Now, it's hard to tell what the union's going to ask for because literally there's no way to know. They have like a couple rough drafts and people have seen these rough drafts and they're freaking out because it's not what they want. But like, don't pump the brakes, okay? They're not going to go forward with anything until there's a union, first one, and there isn't, and two, until they know what the actual drivers want. This is just, it basically looks like a taxi cab collective bargaining contract because that's all they know. That's all they're going on, and they have no real true feedback yet. But just know that no matter how terrible it is at first, it's easier to change a union than it is to change Uber. And it's not close. One individual can be heard by the union and change opinion within the union membership and change the direction of a union. One person can do that if they're annoying enough. And in other unions, people have. But one person can't do shit for Uber. You're at the mercy of Uber without a union, and they can do anything they want to. The most frustrating thing about all of this is it's 2017, and there's all this bickering and fighting about whether or not in 2017 labor can unionize. Like, we've had that fight in the US, and it shouldn't be an issue anymore. If someone wants to unionize, they should be allowed to under federal law. Like, every court decision on the face of the earth since the beginning of time has said that. And I don't want to hear shit about, oh, well, we're independent contractors so we can't unionize. That's the most ignorant, stupid thing I've ever heard. Like, I will believe the earth is flat. I will believe that global warming doesn't exist. And I will believe that vaccinations are fake before I believe that. It's just not true. There is example over example over example of independent contractors coming together to unionize so that they can set fair wages for their industry. Even strippers can unionize. Yeah, that's right. I'm not kidding. So, most states, strippers are considered independent contractors, like in the real fashion, not in the fake Uber fashion, but in the real thing. So they're not employees of the bars they work for. They can go to any club and any bar and strip that they want to because of their own company. And the reason for that is because most states don't want bars owning their women, basically, right? They want these women to be able to free to strip when they want to and not to and go to different places. So they all have 1099s in almost every single state, and they all are considered independent contractors. And there are stripper unions. Strippers have gotten together and unionized for better wages. And that's not the only example. I mean, in US history, there's example after example of independent contractors coming together to unionize. So when I read that online, and people are legitimately making that argument, like, my head wants to explode because it's one of the stupidest things that I've ever read in my entire life. Like, I'll give more credit to like a super religious person who thinks the earth is 4,000 years old and that evolution doesn't exist than I will to somebody who thinks that independent contractors can't unionize. Like, you're wrong, and you're empirically wrong, and in a fact-based world where history exists and there's paperwork trails, you're wrong. Just the way it is. Hey everyone, this is my son. I woke him up when I was doing videos. Say hi, Internet.
Hi, Internet.
Say like, comment, subscribe. Say put comments below.
Put comments below. Thumbs up in the comments.
Yeah, thumbs up in the comments. That's right.
What?